Hello again. Today in this SmartSites Lunch and Learn series, we're very excited to have AccessiBe. We have Simon and Zach in the very fast, new growing field of ADA compliance for websites. AccessiBe has a very innovative approach to ADA compliance, probably the most hands-off approach I have ever seen to date, where you put in their code, and a lot of accessibility things are fixed for you in the back end, just like that. And then there's an extra widget to handle things like text size and colors, etc. So if you are someone looking to make sure your website is ADA compliant, so you are more protected from any legal cases and so on, and you don't want to spend hours and hours and hours custom fixing your site, they are the solution for you. So I'm very excited to have here today Simon and Zach. And with that said, why don't you guys take it away?
Great, and thanks so much for the awesome introduction. Just to formally introduce myself, my name is Simon Benari, and I am the head of sales training at AccessiBe, as well as a senior partner success manager. And I'm going to be presenting to you guys a little bit about web accessibility, its relationship with ADA compliance, our solution, as well as its features compared to other options in the market. And then finally, I'll conclude by talking about the quick and easy process of implementation. I would also open the floor for questions after that. And then, of course, if we still have time, I'd love to even give you a features presentation and show you exactly how it looks on a website. So allow me to share my screen with you. Okay, and Mike, if you can let me know if you're able to see the presentation.
Yep.
Great. Awesome. So just to jump right into it, and the best way for me to get started is to talk a little bit about web accessibility, which is ultimately a set of rules, behaviors, code standards, and design guidelines that were created by the W3C, or the World Wide Web Consortium, and they are called the WCAG. Now, the WCAG, most up-to-date version of that is the 2.1. That's essentially a massive, robust 1,000-page guidebook that explains what accessible websites look and operate like for a range of disabilities that go from hindering internet use all the way to making internet use possible. Now, if you're talking about the CDC estimates or the World Health Organization estimates, that compromises 20 to 25% of the general population. So there's many disabilities covered, but the primary categories are blind people who are using screen readers, the motor impaired using only the keyboard to navigate. You also have epilepsy, color blindness, cognitive and learning disabilities, and visual impairments, also many more. Now, the WCAG 2.1 at the AA level has been adopted by governments around the world in legislation like the ADA Title III, Section 508, which pertains to government institutions in the States, the Canadian AODA, the European 301549, and many others. So, as you probably know, ADA compliance lawsuits, they've been on nothing short of a crazy rise, meteoric rise, if you will. Now, when the attention first started coming to web accessibility, you saw between 2016, 17, 17, 18, a 200% increase every year with reports of lawsuits and, thousands of lawsuits and demand letters that are targeting businesses of all sizes. You have the largest enterprises in the world, which are some of the marquee cases you hear about. And even the small to medium businesses, the mom and pops and single proprietors as well. Now, this trend really began to skyrocket recently after the DOJ in the end of 2018 officially affirmed that all websites are considered public accommodations and therefore have to comply with Title III of the ADA. So what we've seen as a result is that the last couple of years have increased at a 300% clip with respect to each other. So, that being said, this impossible situation for business owners is really made even more difficult with the options in the market or the alternatives in the market. Because what you have, and I know that you mentioned this earlier, are either manual services that achieve compliance, but they cost between $20,000 and $40,000 a year on average. They take several weeks and in many cases months to implement. And of course, also require tedious and costly maintenance, which I personally think is the worst part. Um, on the other hand, there's also free or low cost accessibility plugins. However, they do not provide ADA compliance. They really only give you 5 to 10, maybe 15%, the good ones, of what you need. And they only focus primarily on the design aspects of your site. So you have colors and font adjustments, the UI stuff, but they completely disregard all adjustments related to screen readers and keyboard navigation adjustments for blindness and motor impairments, respectively. And that makes up about 80% of the WCAG requirements. So I'm sure you can imagine with these options, 99% of businesses do not have a feasible solution that's going to protect them from lawsuits or help them to help people with disabilities at the end of the day. So, all that being said, we created AccessiBe to address this problem. And AccessiBe is the first fully AI powered machine learning software that was developed with the understanding that if you're able to successfully automate the process, you in turn create a simple, immediate, affordable, and compliant solution that's going to serve as both an effective win win for business owners and for people with disabilities who, at the end of the day, just want equal access to the internet. In culmination with our pricing model, our solution is not only a no brainer compared to the rest of the providers in the market, but it actually makes web accessibility in general a no brainer for the 99% of businesses that otherwise would have not had a feasible option with the other alternatives in the market. Now, our product was developed over the course of 2 years. We did that side by side with people with disabilities, including leading experts in accessibility and assistive technologies. One of the developers we worked with, brilliant, fully blind developer on the JAWS team. His name is Adi, which is not only the most popular screen reader in the world, but also the one most mentioned in lawsuits. So the reason why it was so essential for us to optimize and collaborate with them on a continuous basis to develop and enhance AccessiBe is so that, of course, on one hand, we can check off all the legal boxes that allow businesses to, achieve compliance, protect themselves legally, but on the other hand, actually provide a path forward to make the internet fully accessible for people with disabilities by 2025. Continue to use focus groups, visit assisted living homes so that we can constantly improve our solution, as well as the collaborations with experts in the field, as mentioned before. Now, I think it's definitely valuable to show a few notable mentions of our solution in the media. So our solution and founders have been mentioned in top magazines and sites across fields like tech, business, digital services, and more. Most recently, our Series A funding round closed for $28 million, which was featured across the net. And really, all of this is very exciting because it brings us one step closer to our mission, being a vision driven or mission driven company. And our number one goal is to make the internet fully accessible by 2025. So, how are we doing so far? I mean, this slide here is constantly outdated. We have over 100,000 clients today. We represent some of the largest enterprises in the world, um, all the way down to the tens of thousands of small to medium businesses, mom and pops, and single proprietors. So, some good examples would be Avon, BMW, and GoPro. For the enterprises, the bona fide government institutions include the Florida Bar Association, the Miami State Attorney's Office, and there's two commonalities that the largest enterprise we have or the smallest mom and pop that we have share. One is that they're both purchasing the same exact solution that we're discussing today. And another one is that not a single one of our clients has ever received a lawsuit under our watch after implementing our solution. And to take that one step further, over 4,500 clients came to our doorstep already served before coming to us with a demand letter or lawsuit. And just by acting so quickly to resolve the matter with our solution, they were able to either significantly reduce settlement fees or even remove the threat entirely. Now, most of the time, all they have to do is send over the accessibility statement, and that acts as a certificate of performance. The statement or certificate, as legally required, will also be available within the accessibility interface on your site. And it essentially explains all the adjustments our solutions made to the website, browser, and assistive technology compatibility, and also describes how to report issues if any are found. It will be personalized to your domain as well as dated, as you can see here. That'll be reinforced by our monthly accessibility compliance audits. Um, and they're essentially emailed directly to your inbox. The audit can be downloaded and shared as proof of maintaining accessibility compliance efforts. I like to see it as a track record. And of course, to take that one step further, the statement, the audit, you get regardless. In cases your website's compliance is questioned any further, we provide a fully loaded litigation support package that includes various documents which indicate your site is fully accessible and fully compliant. Within that, you'll find compliance audit and overview, a screenshot of your website's accessibility score using various testing tools, suggested responses to the lawyers, and more dependent on the situation, a failures or a violations request master sheet. And if there are any specific elements that are pointed out, our team will be happy to video record a demo showing how any elements in question are in fact compliant with our solution. Moving on to the implementation process, which is a fan favorite for the business owners because of how simple it is, and for agencies because of how scalable it is. The first step to installing AccessiBe is just copy and paste one line of JavaScript code. That'll take you 5 minutes to install and can integrate with any website or CMS platform. Completely platform agnostic, by the way. Then your website instantly displays our accessibility interface, and simultaneously our AI kicks in so that within 48 hours it's finished. Your website's fully accessible, fully compliant, and it's also when you'll receive the accessibility statement or certificate of performance to back all of that up. Now, there are so many advantages to our solutions that separate us from the pack, but I'd have to say that the biggest advantage by far, without a shadow of a doubt, is the automatic maintenance. Why? Because it means that our AI rescans your website every 24 hours to make sure that any changes, additions, or revisions are also being remediated. And the reason why I believe that is the biggest advantage by far is because ultimately, after the 5-minute installation, the copy and paste of one line of JavaScript code, you actually have a set and forget solution. You don't have to worry about compliance issues because everything else is done automatically, even for the websites that update every single day. So before I continue, I wanted to stop and see if anybody has any questions.
Actually, I want to also ask a question to the team. Has anyone here had issues with ADA compliance? Have we actually had a client like reach out after getting served something, and did we solve it for them, or has it come up yet?
Actually, yes, it did with a next client of ours, Jodo PR. They came and asked for ADA compliance. What we did is we gave them basically a list of what is needed, and that seemed to have solved the issue. They actually updated things from their end.
Did they already receive a lawsuit, or they were just being proactive about it?
They were just being proactive about it.
Okay. Anyone else had separate from a client getting served something? Have clients been asking about it?
I've actually had a client, OSI Global, who actually just signed on last week. They specifically with this we're doing a new website for them, and they want to make sure that it is accessible and ADA compliant because they actually have had competitors get hit with really big lawsuits. And so that's one thing they brought up to me in our meeting this week.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing, guys. Anyone else? No. All right, very good. Simon, maybe a question to you. for the ADA compliance lawsuits that are presented, who sues them? Is it like I don't know, like a competitor? That doesn't make sense, right? It's someone that has a disability, right? That has to, hey, I tried to use your website to buy this, I couldn't because this is my disability, and then they get a lawyer, and that's probably the route it has to go through, right?
Well, I'm happy that you asked this question because, that is the fair route to go, right? A person with a disability goes on a website, and they are unable to use it. They reach out to the business owner and they say, "Hey, can you help me with the accessibility?" And the big bad business owner says, "No, no way, get lost." And then they receive a lawsuit and pay back for everything. The problem with that is that since the trend has increased, you have the DOJ affirmation, you have the Supreme Court rejecting the Domino's appeal, which is aligning with the DOJ, and circuit courts aligning with those two body of governments. You now have about 30 to 35 law firms out there that are making a business out of just dishing and swishing lawsuits with no rhyme or reason to which company they're going to be sending it to. So sometimes they will have, they'll just send demand letters with, in mass email to 300 businesses. Sometimes it's just to expect a ransom settlement fee. You have the firms that bark, you have the firms that bite, and it's really just time and time again for any regulatory asset, not just digitally speaking, right? You have your trip and fall attorneys with the physical ADA compliance. You're talking about ramps in front of the entrances of restaurants where they used to go door by door. So really, as litigious as the States is, some people will sue just to make that settlement fee, and that is the unfortunate part about it. We do not like that at all. However, again, you'll have the attorneys that are suing to make those really, really high settlement fees, and they make a business out of it. However, and it kind of does undermine the just cases. So it's important to note that. However, you're just as liable, whether it is a just case or a dish and swish, ambulance chasing attorney type of case.
And from your experience, is it like solving it is? I think you already actually did answer that, right? Like, even if you do get served one of these, if you after the fact add AccessiBe, you almost right, you solve it, or could you still be liable and you really have to do it beforehand?
Again, so you have your bark and bite attorneys. Some of them, the process of becoming with our sample size of 4,500 plus clients, at the bare minimum, they were able to significantly reduce settlement fees, but some lawyers will never walk away without something. And then you have the attorneys that are justly looking for compliance. And in the moment that you bring your site up to compliance with AccessiBe, the demand letter, the lawsuit is dropped completely. But even more importantly, a lot of people like to think of becoming accessible, even, of course, making the internet a more inclusive place. You have inclusivity, which is a huge theme today. But when we're talking about just the compliance part of it, having the AccessiBe icon on their site is kind of like having the ADT sign on the front of your lawn. You're not a low-hanging fruit anymore. And since 98 to 99% of the internet is inaccessible, taking comfort in the fact that you are accessible with our solution means that you are, I guess, monumentally decrease your chances of ever getting any legal attention.
I got you. I need to send some of my competitors to some of those bark lawyers you keep talking about. I'm just kidding. We'll talk off camera. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right, great. So let's move on. And I want to talk to you guys next about how AccessiBe achieves compliance by diving into the features. And we achieve compliance by leveraging two components. The first is our accessibility interface, and that's responsible for handling the UI design and cognitive related adjustments. The really cool part about the interface is that it's structured by disability profiles as well as enhancement features. So that way, users with different disabilities can simply select the profile that best suits their needs, just a click of a button, and the site is retrofitted to optimize for their specific disability. And it doesn't have to be a one size fits all, because with the enhancements, they can even further adjust the chosen profile if needed. So among these profiles, you'll find a epilepsy or seizure safe profile, a visually impaired profile, cognitive disability profile, ADHD friendly profile, and of course, the screen reader and keyboard navigation profiles, which we will talk about a little later. The interface is also fully customizable. It has the ability to adapt to your website's design easily, with options to choose the colors, icons, positions, and shapes right from your website in just a few clicks. Second, or the background application, which is the AI machine learning powered process. This is what the body of the work, really. 80% of what we do. It is what your free plugins will lack. Even our foreground application is 5 times more robust than the plugins. But really, what is the difference is the keyboard navigation and screen reader adjustments for the motor impaired and fully blind. To talk to you for a second about what a screen reader is, it's a software used by blind people to operate computers and websites, and it's installed on the operating system. This is crucial. This is the difference between someone who is blind being able to use a website and not, because it reads aloud the content focused on the screen, and it helps with navigation and orientation aspects. So adjustments to those screen readers are what the legislation requires. And to talk about what those adjustments are and what AccessiBe does to handle those on-site aspects, we do so using a contextual understanding AI, keyword context, which is a technology that's responsible for remediating all of your website's menus, drop-downs, pop-ups, forms, icons, buttons, and all other elements by applying the appropriate screen reader texts, ARIA attributes, which is a coding style meant to make accessibility significantly easier, and of course, element roles and adjusted website behaviors. Now, another really, really cool blend of technology that we use is for our alternative text for images, or alt tags. I'm sure many of you SEO people, deal in alt tags on a daily basis. Our solution utilizes iris and optical character recognition technologies to scan and learn the objects, as well as the text that's embedded within the image, in order to produce your proper alternative descriptions or alt tags for images. And everything I mentioned to you so far is fully supported in 14 different languages. Um, so, of course, I'm going to send everyone here a video, 30 minutes, made by our CEO, that's really going to show you how everything works. It's going to match the code and see to the WCAG requirements and how that looks like on a website. But I still want to give you a 8-minute features demonstration to show you how that looks like on the website itself. Does anyone have any questions before I continue on to do so?
Actually, me. I'm sorry to interrupt again.
Right.
You mentioned that it's really cool that it actually reads for blind people, right? And I was curious, what happens when, say, a blind person lands on an American website, however, they are located in Portugal and they only speak Portuguese? Like, does the website need to have a way to translate that text first for the person to be able to hear in their language, or how does that work?
Well, if they're based in Portugal, are they based in the States as well, or are they in Portugal?
They would be in Portugal. They would be Portuguese speakers.
Well, of course, I'll mention to you that our interface does have our solution can be translated to Portuguese. So that is a benefit. However, I do want to put some context here that if the person was, translation itself is not a requirement. However, having understandable alt tags is. So in essence, it is able to translate um, certain text embedded within image into its Portuguese language, but it does not translate all tags, and it's not supposed to either.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Right. But it will be able to translate the interface, which I'll show you momentarily. Great. Is there any other questions before I get into it? All right, great. Let's do it. So I'm going to pull up a sample website. I'll actually do it in incognito mode. So refresh cache free and reset the settings as if they are from scratch. And, as I mentioned, and I want to start with the interface. It includes both accessibility profiles and enhancement features. So this set over here is the profiles. The enhancement features are subsequent with respect to the interface. And the beauty of it is that these profiles enable users with disabilities to instantly adjust the entire website to their specific disability. All profiles have been.
We can't see the demo site. Maybe you need to reshare.
Okay. So, oops.
Sorry about that.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. Are we okay now?
Yeah.
Yep, you got it.
Awesome. Sorry about the technical difficulties. So, okay. And, just to pull up the interface one more time, again, to show you, these would be the profiles, and these are the respective enhancement features. So the beauty of AccessiBe is that you can design a website however you want, and you don't have to compromise the brand look and feel of it in favor of accessibility, because all the adjustments can be made when needed by the user according to their specific disability. For example, if I was to enable the seizure safe profile, it would immediately stop all of the moving objects and also tunes down potentially dangerous colors. To show you an example of that, if you take a look at the flickering GIF here, the playing YouTube video in the bottom right-hand corner, and this moving animation over here, those animations are potentially dangerous and can trigger a seizure, which is very unsafe. When turning on the seizure safe profile, it stops all of the moving content on the screen, including the video, the animation, and if you saw the slight reduction of the contrast, that is also optimal for that specific disability category. If I turn it off, the website will go back to scratch, right? Now, the other profile is the visually impaired profile. Enabling the visually impaired profile, it will scale the content by 100%. It increases the website saturation and also activates a text magnifier window using a mouse hover. As you can see, of course, the font was also changed to a more readable font, in case fonts like the title here may look smudged due to its spikes for certain people. So again, off, right? You see the spikes, the title. I turn it on again. The contrast is increased. The font is more readable. And again, the site is just a lot more optimal for people with visual impairments. Now, again, that is a one-click adjustment that are objective adjustments, and they can always be enhanced, which I'll show you later. The cognitive disability profile is one that, if you turn it on, will highlight all of the headings and titles, and it also scales the content as well. And then finally, the ADHD friendly profile will provide a reading mask, as well as stopping all of the moving content to reduce distractions. Now, the reason why I won't show you the other two profiles is because they are, just for show. Really, somebody who is blind and using a screen reader or motor impaired will not be using this interface at all. And I'll get to that a little bit later. But I do want to show you the enhancement features. So in addition to the profiles, users can choose specific adjustments, for example, to increase the scaling of the site to their exact specifications. Of course, you have the readable font button. You have the ability to highlight only titles or only links or both, as well as alignment changes, increased font sizing, line height, spacing, the works, right? So these are adjustments that will optimize for blurred vision, nearsighted, farsightedness, respectively. Um, and you have the color adjustments for disabilities like cataracts, glaucoma, as well as color blindness. For example, you can change to a dark contrast, as well as a monochrome scheme, a lighter contrast, a high saturation, and depending on the severity of the situation, you can change also specific text, titles, and background colors. You also have the ability to just individually stop animations without reducing the color as well in the seizure safe profile, and you have many other features below, as well as for cognitive and learning disabilities. You have a online dictionary to understand certain terms and phrases, for example, for aging or for autism, um, something like binge watching, right? And then it will, again, connected directly with a couple of dictionaries, be able to define it. You have the accessibility statement here as well, which is personalized to the domain and dated to the time that it became accessible. Explains the adjustments, shows that you are at the compliance level. Again, talks about the specific adjustments that are made as well. Yeah, the 14 different languages, including Portuguese, right? So let's change that back to English. And of course, you see all of these changes that are made. If the user was to leave the website and come back, the website would be already preloaded with the adjustments that they made before. And you can always start from scratch here by resetting the settings. Now, to continue forward, I want to talk about our background process, which is where the AI kicks in, also where the magic happens. And this process is responsible for handling the most complex accessibility requirements, which, as explained earlier, mostly relate to keyboard navigation and screen reader adjustments for the motor impaired and fully blind. So there are different ways to activate accessible mode. People with motor impairments are a lot of the time using just the keyboard to navigate or holding click sticks in their mouth. Now, for the keyboard, the tab key is the universal key for keyboard navigation. And of course, you have skip to content, skip to menu, skip to footer. You tab the third time, and you are now in accessible mode. You can see that you're in accessible mode by the check mark on the bottom left-hand part of the screen. Now, for blind individuals, they are entering a site using a screen reader. Some examples of screen readers would be JAWS or NVDA, two most popular ones. Now, when a blind user enters with the screen reader to an AccessiBe site, they will get prompted to activate accessible mode or screen reader optimization by pressing Alt-1. So you would hear a jingle. You'd see the check mark here. And for a blind user, they will get an announcement to the screen reader that the website has been optimized for screen readers. So to show you from the keyboard navigation side of things, I can tab through the website. You see all of the icons, titles, search bars, menus. You will now have access to drop-down menus, which you can navigate with the arrow keys. When triggering open a pop-up, a lot of big accessibility failures, are related to keyboard traps. And when you trigger open an inaccessible pop-up, the keyboard focus will still be behind the pop-up. So you have no way to escape the pop-up or even navigate through that pop-up without, having to use the mouse. When triggering open a pop-up in accessible mode, the keyboard focus will lift, land on the pop-up, allowing for you to continue navigating. Again, you can change the quantities or escape to continue from where you left off. Forms will now be labeled. So I want to show you the before and after here with forms, which is really cool. So let's say you have a form like this where you are just filling out the information, and I'm going to make a mistake here, probably here. Now, when I sign up in an inaccessible form, first of all, you see that the forms are completely not labeled, which is already an accessibility failure. But when you sign up, it will just tell you please fix the errors of this field, right? Completely horrible. Now, when I turn on accessible mode by pressing Alt-1, get to the form again to show you the difference here. Now the forms are completely labeled, right, as you see here. But the difference as well is that when you make a mistake this time, right, and I'll make the same mistake, same settings, and you are taken back to the focus and suggested what the mistake was. If a blind user did not have that guidance, they would never be able to fill out a form properly, even if they made a single mistake. So this allows them to be able to do so. And other things like navigating sliders, adjusted header hierarchy, and all of the images, labels, icons, forms are all made fully accessible. These are some of the most complex accessibility adjustments which our solution excels in remediating. Now, to show you probably what people think is the most exciting part of our solution, it is the back-end labeling and the alt tags for the images, the image recognition technology. So I will get out of accessible mode. This will be the last thing I show you guys today. And I want to inspect the console to show you what an element looks like when it's not in accessible mode and when it is. Starting with this Facebook icon. Again, and by the way, are you able to see the console? Mike?
Yes, yes.
Great. Awesome. So you see how the Facebook icon here is completely not labeled, as well as the favorites here. Again, going through with the screen reader, it would not read you anything. It would just say icon, 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 icon. And another example would be an image, of course. You have no alt tags here, no description of the text embedded within the image. And I'll show you one more for good measure. Okay, so now I will activate accessible mode by pressing Alt-1. As we mentioned, you will see the code changing live, and when re-inspecting the element, you will now see the alt tags, woman in shorts standing on gray concrete floor near body of water during daytime. Or in this case, you'll see woman in blank tank top with arm tattoos. Or for an image that has text embedded within it, you have the optical character recognition kick in, travel shopping 50% off, and wood retro and luggage. Now, when you inspect objective elements like Facebook, we recognize that have to be Facebook because we've seen it a bajillion times. That's the essence of machine learning technology. It's able to understand that, first of all, it's Facebook and that it will take you to a new window, as you see here, which is very important because some icons that take you to new windows are taking you to inaccessible sites. So it's important for them to know that. And it will have the respective element roles that it will assign a true label to it being navigable, clickable, and of course, the proper labeling as well. Now, the heart, right? Contextual understanding, AI puts things into context, so it knows that this heart, after seeing it hundreds of millions of times, is in fact a favorites. Or even these stars over here, it's not just going to label them as stars. It knows that it is in fact a rating system. It will give it a 4 out of 5 rating. So, this technology presented all the time, and it never ceases to impress me. You put all of the items that I showed you here, and the demonstration I could show you go on forever, but that ultimately puts together a fully compliant website with WCAG 2.1 at the AA level standard. So and I really appreciate you guys allowing me to present to you today. Um, I'd like to open the floor one last time for questions, and then and that'll be it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Good job, Simon.
Thank you.
Can I start off with a question? Start
Yeah.
our Q&A. You showed the validation with the email, which was it seemed like it was accurate. Put in the @ sign, put in the dot or whatever, right? Say it was a, I don't know. For example, say it was a phone number text box. And I've seen many different validations for phone numbers, right? Some are just numerical, some require dashes, some require exactly 9 digits, whatever, right? Like, how smart is your system that it'll pick up on the exact validation that was like, I don't know, right? Does it go in and like actually check, here's the exact validation, or does it go with like most probable? So like if it's Shopify, it'll be correct, but if it's some like developer custom code, it might not be, and it's something that needs to be looked at and addressed. Can you give me an idea there?
Form validations is a very interesting, particularly phone numbers. You never know when they need the dash, when they just want the numbers and they don't want the dashes, the parentheses. And essentially, in order for you to validate a form, it needs to be done so with respect to the way that the developer created the form. Now, with machine learning technology, the beauty of it is that our AI learns by analyzing user behavior like heat maps, mouse coordinates, and HTML and elemental structure. So as the users are filling out these forms, our AI will be able to understand exactly what is required of the form, and yes, be able to tell you what mistake you made, even if it's as subjective as a developer's preferences or a business owner's preferences to what is a proper phone number, or a proper way to write one down.
So by machine learning, like, do you mean like it might not be perfect at first, but eventually it'll kind of like, after enough wrong inputs, it'll learn what the validation is, or it actually kind of goes in the code and takes it from there?
So good question. And machine learning technology in the beginning, yes. And so if you were talking about our solution when it was in development over the course of 2 years, yeah, it would the success rate would start out, of course, while we're training the machine at 20%, then it increases to 50%, and then it's analyzing hundreds of millions of data sets and then continuing to have more experience on hundreds of thousands of websites. But in February 2019, we were able to safely release the solution with the highest success rate in the industry, with a minimum of 97%. Just within the first 48 hours. Now, even then, it continues to improve itself with the experience of the site and user behavior, absolutely. And not only will it improve your site, it will analyzing your site will improve its knowledge for other websites as well. But of course, we would never release a technology that is not already bringing you up to full accessibility standards by default with the highest success rate in the industry. But it can even still get better than that.
Cool. Got it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I actually had a few questions. So the first one, forgive me if this was something that you went over and perhaps I just missed it, but for somebody who's completely non-sighted, how would they actually engage with this API? How would they know it's on the site or know how to engage it? Would they be told audibly that they can interact with this?
Great question. So, just to name a few popular screen readers: TalkBack, NVDA, JAWS. A blind user or non-sighted will not be able to even get on the website to begin with without the screen reader. So the moment they enter the site with the screen reader, AccessiBe will announce to the screen reader that in order to activate screen reader optimizations, they need to press Alt-1, and then they'll get into accessible mode, and all of the labels and the respective adjustments to the structure of the website will be applied.
Got it. And my second question there would be, I guess, for photos that have text embedded in them rather than over them. So for example, in your sample or demo site you have up there, there's a Black Friday graphic. Would this API kind of rely on alt text to tell the user what that's about?
It's able to take the text embedded within the image with pixel recognition. That's the OCR. Now, this is an example of text over the image rather than not embedded, and that will, of course, be navigable and readable without that technology. But again, these are all texts that are embedded within the image.
Got it. That's great. Thank you.
Anyone else?
If there's no more questions, I think let me just end with one final kind of pitch about AccessiBe. If you research AccessiBe, which I did extensively, you'll actually see that they are the best solution out there for this. If you look at sites like G2, which is a pretty trustworthy, comprehensive, source for SmartSites is in there too, but also software as a service companies. Usually AccessiBe is bundled or grouped in with like other companies that kind of do other things in like some like broad category like website compatibility, and involves like SEO audits too. But if you like take out the fluff, they are by far the best rated. In fact, one of the others I've researched that was AudioEye, which has a competing product, and they're actually a public company that's worth like over $300 million. AudioEye is that literally has no reviews and like no reputation, and AccessiBe is absolutely killing it. I do think that this is, unless the law changes, like if AccessiBe goes public tomorrow, I'm gonna buy it. I think it's I have full faith in this product, and unless the law changes, the need for this is only higher. And I think it's obvious from what Simon showed us that, for a developer to do this without help of a widget like AccessiBe, it would just be, I don't know, dozens, hundreds of hours of work. So really it's, it does force the consumer to have some solution, again, unless the law changes. So I think it's one that, really all of our clients can benefit from, and we should have no reservation in recommending AccessiBe for. That's my final spiel. Simon, Zach, thanks again for joining us today. It was very informative. We really appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you more.
Thanks so much. You guys have a good one. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.